how do I know and understand, whatever word you want, that I'm integrated or that I'm more integrated? Because obviously there's lots of approximations along the way. So what does it mean that we become more integrated? And how do I assess this on myself? So what are the things I'm looking for? What are the ideas I'm looking for? For some reason, I don't know why this is, but, you know, if I wanted to give an example of me feeling integrated, it's like ever since going and seeing Bohemian Rhapsody, I've had that need somebody to love stuck in my brain. And the reason I love it is I feel so integrated when I sing it. Do you know what I mean? I'm moving and everything's there and I feel really free and yeah, it's really amazing that, so it's like all of my senses are alive and the timing and the orientation, they're all in there together somehow. Go on. Yeah, please. I'm getting out of the way.
Yesterday, I went to the swimming pool with my kids. I've got 2 kids. One is 9 years old and one is 3 years old. And the 3 years old, she was having a ball, swimming in the water, having a lot of fun, moving everything. But then it was a moment when she started to slow down. She worked out that she doesn't need to do a lot of things to be in the water. And it was all this face soft and the eyes are soft. And it was a lot of pleasant in watching and observing that. So I think she really discovered how to be there, but not working so hard. And the beauty of watching that was because it was coming from the inside.
Yeah.
I didn't say, look, you know, do this, do that, or I try to respect them as much as I can, just, you know, discover on your own. But it was a great thing to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that all the senses, all her senses, they're really involved, all the things that you say. So she wasn't like thinking and then doing it, or watching someone and doing it. She was so much involved, doing everything. She was facing up. And then she was doing all of that, and she started to go really soft, and she was smiling, and she really was almost like doing nothing. And I was watching her, and I was doing that with her, but it was a transformation of both. It was something really special.
Mm-hmm.
And then she got back to, you know, again, moving a lot, but she was, again, here and then, going back to that, So I had, you know, I couldn't come yesterday to the training, but I had I'd been on the training because I was so immersed into noticing that, you know, little people, they more in that stage of integration. Everything is part of themselves. They know
the habits aren't in there as
so
strongly.
It was so beautiful, and I've got a contrast because my 9 years old, she never was like that. She was always working hard, and she's still working hard. So when I wonder how I'm gonna, I don't know, respecting her, but showing her another way to be, because she's more, you know, I want to do this. Anyway,
it's a great question to ask, though, isn't it? Because there you're seeing your individual learners.
Yeah.
You know, how do they learn? What senses do they pay attention to? How do they shift their attention? So how do I set up scenarios that she can't be so focused?
Yeah.
You know, that we're going to give her something to do that she can't stay focused and do it. You know? So I think these are the ways that Feldenkrais would think. What is it that someone needs to understand? How do I create a learning environment that's going to give them the possibility of learning that? So, you know, if you just thought for a moment, you know, with your older daughter, and she likes to be really strong, No? What sort of ATM would you give her to begin to explore this? Would she get really frustrated if you asked her to really pay attention to fine movement? Probably.
Yeah.
Huh? Probably.
Yeah, because yesterday, in a different time of the day, I had a conversation with her. She got so frustrated with my partner because the way they communicate in that particular moment, it was the same. Like my partner turns into a child, and that battle of not listening. And I saw Ona when, and I said to Ona, look, I can't really say anything to Sam because he's an adult, but I can tell you, just watch your breathing. What are you doing with your breathing when you get into that state? She went, what do you mean with my breathing? And I went, I want to explain you can't really change people around. People is going to be telling you things and all sorts of reactions, but all you can do is just look in you. But she couldn't really understand.
Not when she's in that heightened emotional tone.
And so she ran out, like, I don't want to listen to that. And then she came and then she gave me a cuddle and then she was soft. But she's still quite not, so I didn't want to.
So it's when do we suggest things to people? Do you know what I mean? What is it about creating a learning environment? When do we suggest things to people? What are we setting up that allows us, you can see Feldenkrais, when's he dropping all of these ideas in? Usually when you're spreading your attention, you're softening your intention, when there's sort of space in there to come in. And when are the other times where he just wants you to be really oriented? So they're there, but he's just going to move you through space in really unusual ways so that you can't get too focused, you can't get too fixed. So, how do we begin to look at ATMs in some of these ways? What are we after with big movements, small movements, fast movements, slow movements, paying very fine attention to our internal or keeping our eyes open all the time and staying in the world as we do ATMs. So this movement of attention is really fundamental to what he's doing. And remember, it's the attention that gives us awareness. We can't develop awareness out of no attention. Awareness comes from paying attention. So that's a really great story. Really great story.
There's a lot of layers.
Many layers.
Yeah.
And where are you going to come in and work with someone? Yeah. What are you going to bring to their attention? And again, most of that's going to keep coming back to what are you looking for in your world? And it's always, how am I learning at there I go again. How do I keep getting this idea of more and more of myself? Because if you're your daughter again, can you be her again? Can your pelvis move there?
But not free, like here, no. But she was blocked, like.
And that's usually our emotions are the things that stick us the most.
Yes.
It's all that or internal dialogue that's going on. And so, again, if we think of the intentional cortex, and it's the intentional cortex because we've got an intention to do something. And the more we focus on one bit, the more our intention goes there. So how do we begin to spread it out? How do we begin to open it up so that the pathways aren't always making the Grand Canyon even bigger and more defined?
What I saw on Uma is what she really makes me think it was the action. That's what she really does, that it was different.
She's in her sensation.
Exactly, and she was also affected by the environment.
Mm.
because she was, she was playing and playing, and then she's still playing, but the environment offers something. Oh, I can be soft here. I don't need to be working or. So
and she's not in language to do that. That's her process, to be sensing herself.
Yeah.
So, this is where it gets really interesting in terms of integration. How do we give a person a sense of integration, which Feldenkrais gave to Elizabeth? Gave her a sense, all of her. She could have a more complete self-image, which enabled her to move more easily. Yeah? So he's giving a more complete self-image, and that doesn't mean that she can sense it yet. Huh? So she's had an experience which is invaluable. How much she's going to be able to take that with her, because we work so much in this sensory domain, is going to have a lot to do with how much she senses herself anyway. And that's what we're trying to judge all the time. How much does someone sense themselves? I was definitely one of those people who, when I started the training, did not sense themselves. It was a whole new world to me. Sense myself? I can still remember doing movements and going, you've got to be kidding. Where's my pelvis? I don't know. I'm a physio. I'm meant to be trained in anatomy and movement. But what sense did I have of how I moved, or what made movement easy, or looking for connections in myself? So we're always trying to find out, where is the person here? What distinctions can they make? Where have I got to put the focus, if you like, on the lesson? Is it more the learning to sense themselves? I'm always going to be looking for an integrated movement, but that learning part is huge. What is it that they need to understand and to sense? Anyway, coming back, here's your question. How do I know and understand that I am more integrated? And how do I assess this? Think about it. How do you know? What would you do? Because this is what you're doing at the beginning. Well, once you get this, you can do it any time of the day, can't you? What am I doing? How am I assessing how I'm operating at the moment? What am I attending to? What is it? And not just sensorially, but what is it that tells me? Is it just a sensation? Is it that I'm working in more constructs, an abstract idea that I can put into a concrete expression of what I'm looking for? So take a moment and write down some of your ideas. And writing them down, sensing them and writing them down. Because most of you were in sitting then. So how would you ask this question or observe this in standing? So rather than just coming into the lesson, how do I feel, which is really based in sensation, which is what we want, what could you look at that would tell you more about how you're organised at the moment? What is what you are doing well? What you are including in your image? What are the things you're looking for? And are you looking for relationships between things? So coming back to that idea of we're gathering information, how are we processing it? It's these things that have enabled us as a species to really develop. With that great big brain of ours. But sometimes we don't use that well. Have a walk around. Would you ask yourself, would you be looking for something different when you're walking? Mm. Mm. And maybe you might notice that as you're walking and you're asking your questions, you might also think, what about if I observed someone else? Would I be looking for something different if I was observing someone else rather than myself? Mm. 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 So what am I doing at the moment that's making my life easier? And come to lying on your back again. Mm. 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 So what do you look for when you're lying on your back that's telling you about your sense of integration at the moment? Mm. Mm. So that you're asking questions now, absolutely on how am I at this moment in time. But you've also done many other ATMs. You've had experience of a lot of ATMs that have been giving you this information about how do I know when I'm more integrated, when I can most easily facilitate my intention into action. So come up to sitting. And a lot of last week we've been looking at finding a bit more softness in our hands and how that softness in our hands requires a general spreading of less effort, equalising more the tonus throughout our system. Because our hands often, I don't know if you're like me, but you know, even though I go to a wonderful dentist now who I know is never going to hurt me, maybe this is older people, I don't know, before they used as much. I'm lying there and it is much better, and it's like my little hands are, okay, Julie, relax, relax. My attention goes away. 20 seconds later, I'm back there again. And it is much better as I've learnt to spread my attention. But, you know, these things, you know, our hands are a big part of our cortex, and they do tell us a lot about, because this is what we use to manipulate the environment so much. This is how we touch people, how we communicate. So we finished yesterday with joining your toes together. So could you come, and we went back to the bell hand again. Do you know what I mean? In terms of reaching your hand to your foot in a more constrained position, which is on your back, where you don't have as much mobility as you do when you're in sitting. So we're starting in sitting, and you're finding the easiest way possible, thinking of all those things we've been doing, finding that sense of ease to begin to interlace your right hand into your right foot. And of course, the less effort you have in your hand as you do this, which is predicated on softening your intention, looking for ease, the easier maybe it's going to be for your toes to spread and to allow your fingers to go in there. You know, right hand, right foot. This is one of those things, you know, do whatever you like and turn your head to the right. You can absolutely do it that way. You can absolutely use your left foot if it's more comfortable, and then you're going to start with your left hand. No? So absolutely you can change which leg it is, but not the hand. So you're going to find the softest possible way. And remember how at the end of the lesson yesterday, you know, what do you remember of how easy it was for you to get yourself forward to your toes? What was it that we did with all that weight shift and softening? And notice, did you choose to put your thumb between your first and second toe, or your index finger? Doesn't matter. Simply notice. And now you're just going to play with lifting your your right foot away from the ground. I'm going to get confused if I watch you, Shane. Lifting your right foot away from it's fine. No, don't swap, it's fine. Your right foot away from the ground. And just you're going to be interested in, if I can keep this softness in my wrist, in my forearm, does that allow me to find some softness in my foot? So can I transfer some of this softness? And just feel, if you start to grip in your fingers again, if you start to grip in your forearm, and so your wrist can't be soft, your fingers can't be soft, what happens to your foot? What happens to your foot? So once you've found the softest way you can, could you begin to just feel, how many different parts of my foot can I see? How many different parts? So that's your intention. How many parts of my foot can I see? So he's already, what? In this lesson, the constraints are, we're one side, and he's already said you're looking at your foot. So he's making you organise something in your eyes, in your head, that would be very different if you weren't trying to see your foot. So these very subtle things that he puts in can be really powerful learning for us to notice and go, why is he doing that? So really feel the difference as you're doing this. What's the difference if I'm interested in looking at my foot, or if my head's just going off somewhere in the distance? What happens differently in your weight shift? Does looking at your foot ask for something different than if you're just looking around everywhere. But you can have a relationship between your head and your pelvis both ways. But what's different in the weight shift? Is one a bigger weight shift or a small? Because, see, you're not looking at your foot at the moment. So look at your foot and see what happens in your weight shift. No? When I've got to keep not only my eye and my hand, which is a fundamental, huge part of the brain, huge part of the brain, in how do my eye and hand track each other through space. But now I've joined my hand to my foot to see how I'm going to add another bit to this puzzle of using this ability to see my eyes to track my hand through space, because my hand's attached to my foot, so now I've got to track my foot through space too, with my eyes, with my head. So can your eyes stay soft when you do that? How much differentiation have you got between your eyes and your head? That your head can still be free to move and your eyes can move in your head to keep this softness. And what does that allow for some of us in our shoulders and our upper chest? And again, it's really interesting because the majority of you have all shifted to your left sit bone. No? Or to your opposite sit bone. I won't confuse those who are doing the other. So what is it about your eyes and your head and your hand and your foot? What's going to make them softer, more available for movement? Again, this is a basic premise of our work. If I get them to do less weight bearing, if they don't have to be as involved in holding me up, they're going to they can give up some of their habitual contractions that they use to hold me in space. To find this lightness and ease. And, you know, how would you explore that? So as you've got your right hand and your right foot, if you bring your weight over to the left, how free does your ankle feel? What happens if you bring your weight over to the right? Really feel that difference. Really explore what's happened if I've put weight onto my right buttock. My brain knows that I'm weight bearing there. So what has to fire off in my cortex because I'm weight bearing? So that has to limit, doesn't it, the amount of mobility, the amount of ease that's possible. I think you did this way back with Susan with the standing leg and the jiggly leg. Huh? No? Fundamental principle that we use. You know, Feldenkrais was always, you know, how do you, I can't remember, it was, if you're standing on your right leg, how can you get your hand under your foot? No? And your brain prioritizes, and all of that is not in conscious thinking. Your brain is constantly making all of these predictions. It's got all these habits in there that if weight's here, what's important is that I don't fall over. No? Not that I'm going to have ability. I have to hold myself up in space. I don't want to fall over. So all this, if you like, baby rolling is just so important in our process. Okay, so now let's open it up a little bit and have a bit of fun. So now you're lifting your right hand off the floor. You're keeping it pretty much off the floor. Just play. How many different positions could you get into with your right hand holding your right foot? You're not limited in any way. You can go anywhere you like as long as your right hand is holding your right foot. So which way would be easier to roll? And again, just find. And again, notice when you get a bit stuck, what's happened to that playful, light attitude? So does it help to keep your eye focused on your hand, or is it easier if you let it be free? Where can you go? Some of you have got up to sitting. How many ways? Yay, go Alison. How do I get up to standing? Or kneeling, or really let your possibilities open up. Your only constraint is that your right hand and your right foot are staying together. How free is the base of your neck? And again, you will effort doing this. Babies effort. And they get stuck. So what do you do when that happens? Feel you have to spread your attention out again. Soften your intention. How many different shapes can you make? And it's really interesting if we come back to what Quilletta was saying before. It requires this playfulness, this curiosity, requires a particular attitude. No? But there's a certain reversibility that's finding this space where I don't perceive errors as mistakes, but just I'm trying different things. It's not right or wrong, I'm just trying different things. Okay, come back to sitting. Okay, that's what feels different. How do babies feel after they've been doing this? What's happened to their world? Have a nap. Isn't it nice, though? You know, have a nap because you can feel that you're tired. How many of us go through our days motoring on? And oh, yes, I'm tired, but I'm going to keep motoring on. No? But what is it when everything starts to move through space and open that I go, oh, actually, my need at the moment is to have a nap. Could I pay attention to that? Absolutely. That goes a little bit back to that one, the question that someone asked the other day. Is this a calming? Does this, if I'm really like this all the time, do these movements calm me down? Do you know what I mean? And give me a sense of listening to myself. Or if I'm like this most of the day, life's really hard and it's a big effort. Maybe these movements really wake us up and energize us. So what are the movements? How do I know me? What are the movements I need to do that can move a mood for me or move a state for me? So this time, taking your left hand to your right foot. So still the same foot, and it's your left hand. And just again, feel, how do you do that? Are you still thinking of some sense of this softness with the bell hand to get you there? And how much do you include in your image to get there? Where could your shoulders go if this bell hand was really soft? Would you go straight forward to do it? Or might your shoulders start to go a little bit asymmetrical? Underneath. Underneath, yeah. So it's such a big one, this process of initiation. You know, my pattern is I keep this symmetrical, so that's what I do. No? But if it's a diagonal, what maybe would you expect to happen through someone's chest, through their sternum, through their shoulders? So again, find the lightest way to get there. And how would you lift your foot now? Because now we've gone into a contralateral pattern. We've got a diagonal, so Karen, yeah. No, contralateral. And again, notice, did you put your index finger between the first and second toe? And any time as you're playing here, go back and forwards between putting the thumb through the first and second toes and feeling. And your first thing here again, if we're going to go back a little bit, is your intention is to see more of your foot. Your intention is to see more parts of your foot. And feel the softer you can have your wrist, your forearm on your left hand, how that opens up possibilities in your foot and your ankle and your lower leg bones. But as soon as you grip, feel the difference in what's available. This is a really wonderful self-use one to do. To really get your hands really connected and soft through all of you. And feel how this really changes for a lot of us where we go on our pelvis, what the possibilities are. Is this as much about rolling? Can be, but is it? So something about when we bring the opposite hand and foot together, there's something about this midline that we're maybe finding. And where could you explore with a diagonal? How many places could you find to move you through space? Again, this is really fundamental understandings that we're looking for here. What is about one side compared to if we cross the midline? How do they change the possibilities for us? How do they organise different things for us? Which one might a baby do first? One requires us to have a lot more distinctions through our spine, a lot more shapes, soft, small shifts in our shape. next time you're on your back, stay there still with this hand holding your foot. If you haven't changed over, change over your thumb. And now, could you find a way to lift your left foot from the floor and thread it through the triangle of your left arm and your right leg? And don't feel you have to stay on your back to do this. Let it take, maybe it could take you somewhere. So you've still got your left hand holding your right foot, yeah? And now you're going to thread your left leg through the triangle that you're making with your hand and your foot. So can you do it from the top? Can you do it from the top? Where are you going to have to do it from? Yeah. So you're threading it through and you're taking it out, and really feel, are you having to stay on your back to do this? Can you find that your head could soften, that you could roll to your belly if you wanted to? You could, yeah? So how do we constrain ourselves? How do we find all of these different ways to change the shape of our middle with this constraint of our hand and foot holding each other, and our foot staying soft and our hands staying soft? And, it's, Feldenkrais would often say, and, it's what you see. When you get people to do these movements, you really see the orientations they don't go into, the shapes they don't yet understand. So that even, and this is where it's getting interesting in terms of levels of integration, that I can know my pelvis and head really well in one orientation, but what are all the others that I don't understand it? So often when we're working with people, the first thing is, oh my God, their pelvis and head are connected, thank God. Do you know what I mean? We've got something that's going through them where they can feel this flow, this ease. And often we're going to try and pick a position that they already know something, that it's more likely. But then we want to expand the possibilities. Okay, have a lie on your back. Have a rest. So we've done the right hand to the right foot and the left hand to the right foot. We haven't done the left leg. Yeah, we haven't attached it. What's that done to your sense of yourself? We've sort of been organising the whole upper torso in this lesson to be connected more through this constraint to your left leg. Sorry, to your right leg. Has that done something to your face? Just feel. Does your face feel any different on the right side? Your cheek, muscles around your eyes, just touch it. There's something different. Of all those movements of directing our attention and organising that right leg to become more mobile and possible, that's done something to my eyes. Is there something that one eye just feels softer because within these movements, maybe I had to find that my two eyes can work differently. come up to standing. So what's that done from the beginning of the lesson? From what you were asking yourself at the beginning of the lesson. So you're feeling what's emerged? Where's my attention being taken at the moment? And what's that allowed me to feel more integrated in? So again, these are the levels. So if I was going to go a little bit more to my right leg or my left leg, does one feel more integrated than the other? How do I know this? Have a walk around and really feel. You've got your questions anyway, but how does your weight come to your right leg? How does your weight come to your left leg? Which one can I stay on longer? Do I feel more balanced on? So this is a really one-sided lesson. So we're not looking at the moment, well, not one-sided, but one-legged. You're not looking at the moment to transfer, to make it different. You're really using these differences to give you more information about what's that lesson allowed me to feel in how I can be on one leg or the other leg. Are there some things that are more possible when I'm on one leg than the other leg? And it's not that your left leg isn't included in your image, your other leg. Maybe it's learnt to do something to support getting the weight onto one leg. Okay, so we're just going to take a 5-minute break here. This is not a cup of tea break. And have water and we're going to come back and listen to Feldenkrais teaching the rest of this lesson. Okay? So within these couple of minutes, just